Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh and welcome to Ummah Radio. You are listening to the Islamic live question and answer show with myself Abu Mus'ab. Tonight's show will be solo again because unfortunately I have not seen Sajid in more than a week and likewise there is no one else available to host the show. Therefore I will be running the things myself. So once again, for those of you who are new, you can send in your questions and inshallah it will be answered on air live either via Skype, the Skype name being Ummah Radio. Alternatively, you can post your questions on Ummah Forum. The link is available in the Ummah Radio section of the forum. There is a thread there called Thursday 30th of January 2014. In there you can post your questions and inshallah you can keep on posting as many as you want so during the duration of the show, and inshallah we'll see as many as can be done as possible. You don't have to hesitate or hold back. If you want to ask a question, uh, because there's enough place for everyone to ask their questions, inshallah. Okay, then on that point we can start. Bismillah walhamdulillah wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillahi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala. The first question we've got here for tonight, a questioner sent in. He says, let me see. Okay, we'll take the first one from the forum. It says, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Maghrib, how long do we have to pray it? Example, someone is commuting from work to home and the time for Maghrib has started, but they will not be able to pray until they get home 1 hour later. What do they do? Okay, that's the first question. So when it comes to the time of Maghrib Salah, this would differ from country to country, I assume. Over here, it's 1 hour and 20 minutes since from the time Maghrib enters until the time Isha enters. So you have this scope of 1 hour and 20 minutes wherein you can perform your Salah. So that's how. I do not know about other parts of the world because the UK and Australia and Pakistan and all these places, the rising and the setting of the sun, the time zones, how long the day and night is, things like this change from one country to another. So unless I know the specifics of the country, I will not be able to give a precise ruling on it. But in any case, we work as an example on my country here, South Africa, where I am. So here was 1 hour and 20 minutes. So the time, let's say the time of Maghrib enters at 7 p.m. So you've got until 20 past 8 to perform your Maghrib Salah. If you commute from 7 or possibly you start a little bit before 7, because if it's 7 o'clock and the time of Maghrib has just entered, then wherever you are, you can perform your Salah before you start commuting. But let's say you started maybe traveling 5 to 7 or 10 to 7. So it takes you even 1 hour to get home. By the time you get home, it's only about 8 o'clock, 10 past 8, or maybe even 10 to 8, whatever the case may be. So then you've got sufficient time before Aisha enters for you to perform your Salah. So it will be permissible for you to do it that way. Alternatively, if you can delay your commuting so that you can perform your Salah, even better. Or best of all, if you are commuting, depending now again on the type of transport that you are taking, if your transport is such that, like say for instance, you're on a train or something and there is sufficient place for you to perform your Salah like that, then you can perform your Salah in that manner on the train or whatever the case may be. If you are driving your own car, then there are masajid around, or uh, say you've got a friend's house or whatever the case may be, or some place where you can pull off on the side of the road and you perform your Salah there, that will also be fine. So it depends on the individual situation. Each situation will have to be assessed to see which will be best. If you are in a rough area, an unsafe area, obviously to pull over on the side of the road as a woman especially and perform your Salah there, you're putting yourself at risk. So therefore we would not advise you to do that. But if you, like I say, there's a masjid nearby, and it obviously having facilities for women and things, and then you pull in there and you perform your salah with them, well and good. So depending on the situation, you will have to see uh, what is the most uh, appropriate for you to be able to do. Like I say, if this is not possible, if you are traveling with somebody else, so therefore they cannot stop and you can't perform your salah in it, because let's say you're riding on the back of a motorbike or whatever the case may be, a bike, or you cycling, whatever the case may be, so it's not possible for you to stop anyway or to perform salah in that manner, whatever the case may be, but then you delay your salah until you get home, because you've still got 20 minutes or half an hour or even 10 minutes or so left before the time of the salah has exited. So in that case, you will delay your salah right until you get home, and then you perform your salah immediately as soon as you get home, so that you have sufficient time to perform your salah properly. Wallahu a'lam. Okay, next question. It says, in Salat, say you've started to recite one surah but quickly corrected it to another surah. Do you still do sajda of forgetfulness? Okay, this, no, technically you will not uh, need to perform sajda sahu, the sajda of forgetfulness. If you, because let's say you've started قل أعوذ برب الفلق, and then you skip and you say no, it's the wrong surah you were thinking about, you move on to قل أعوذ برب الناس, like that, then no, there will not be, this is what I understand the question to be asking. So in this case, no, there will not be sajda sahu will not be required for this. Wallahu a'lam. Okay, another questioner says, Assalamu alaikum. What is your advice for a sister who would like to study the deen and become an alima, but lives in an area where there are no schools available for sisters? Do you know of any such boarding schools for sisters, or would you recommend online and alim courses? Jazakallahu khair for all your efforts. Okay, wa alaikum assalam. When it comes to females studying the deen and this, I understand that there are not so many schools available for females. I also do not know myself of any boarding schools. You see, the problem with boarding schools is a woman, one, normally you traveling without a mahram to be able to get to that place, and then all other sort of things that normally takes place on this type of journeys and stuff. So if you're traveling from the UK to go study in America or in South Africa or whatever the case may be, so you've traveled this long journey without a mahram, you're living in the town without a mahram, so it causes a lot of problems. If you are traveling like that with a mahram, it's a different story. Maybe a family goes on holiday for an extended holiday of 7 years while you study your course. It's a bit of a different story. You rent a house or a flat or something nearby, and then you can commute like this with your father, brother, husband, whoever the case may be, up and down to classes and so on. Then no problem whatsoever in that. However, what I would suggest here about the online alim courses, that always make things easier, because you can learn from the comforts of your home. And the thing with online learning is, okay, nothing beats learning quite in person, but online learning is the new thing that's, as you can say, the people are getting into. That's why you find like Cordoba Academy of Sheikh Muhammad Daniel, and he does so many courses himself, and the rest of the teachers of his academy, they teach the books of hadith. They did recently the entire Bukhari, or rather I think it was the entire Musnad Muwatta of Imam Muhammad rahimahullah, and various kitabs like this. So people do manage to do these courses online. Plus, even the way that we do on Ummah Radio on a Monday night, being Aqidah and Hadith on the one night and things like this. Although it's short classes to be able to accommodate other people, but you can get classes that you can do as a full time alim course online. So this is what I would suggest as a first preference, to do this rather, because like I say, you don't have to go anywhere, you don't have to travel anything. Okay, unfortunately, most people who teach nowadays, they charge for X amount of money for attending the courses and things like that. which is an unfortunate thing, but if you are going to be traveling to stay in a boarding school and things, you're going to be paying in as well. So therefore, this way online would be the better option. Wallahu a'lam. Okay, another questioner sends in, Salam, how can we become mature? Maturity is, how do I say it now? It's not quite something that you can just say, do this and you'll become mature. But the thing is that normally people are childish because they do not have enough responsibility. So therefore they can go through life being childish and immature and things like that of the sort. So I would suggest as one way of becoming mature is to bring more responsibility into your life, do more things for others, not only for yourself, and also learn more about the deen, practice, teach. So the more things you do, it's broadening your horizons, and that inshallah will instill a bit of maturity into yourself so that you get out of that childish and immature ways. Wallahu a'lam. Another question, how do we break out from autopilot salah? Okay, this autopilot salah, I assume, refers to when a person is performing salah and is not paying attention whatsoever to the salah that he is making. So it's changed from ibadah, meaning worship, to adah, meaning a habit. So you're no longer performing salah, as in your mind is present that you are worshipping Allah, but now it's just something, as you can say, it's your habit. It's the time of Fajr, so you go there and you go up and down like that, not paying attention to anything. So I assume this is what is meant by autopilot salah. So when it comes to cases like this, the answer is what somebody asked either last week or the week before that, with regards to increasing your khushu', your how would I translate it, as your concentration and your fear of Allah and things like this in the salah. So that question was asked either last week or the week before that, and the answer I gave there is the same one which I would give for this year. To get out of your autopilot salah, the term that you use, the thing is to increase your khushu', your presence of mind in your salah. So a couple of things I mentioned last time. Your autopilot salah, basically the reason it's being so easy and so like a habit for you is because you've done it so many times, so you can basically do it with your eyes closed. There's no concentration, nothing required. So what I had suggested, which I find helps, is recite a little bit louder. If you normally recite of a very soft to yourself, try and raise, not loud so that everybody around you can hear, but of a little bit louder so that the person next to you, one, two people can be able to hear you, and not necessarily so loud, but just so that there is a change in your recitation. So now you have to exert some effort to change from your normal habit to do something new. So this will require you to keep your mind more present. Other things you can do as well is to recite slower. If you recite fast, you recite slower. If you recite slow, recite a little bit faster. You change your pace. That will also, because many people, they learn fast, so they become to such an extent that they cannot recite slow. It takes them a lot of effort to be able to recite slow, and the other way is around as well. So there are many things like this that you can do, which will take your mind and bring it into your salah, that this is what you need to focus, otherwise you'll go get mixed up in your salah. Then this is with regard to things like this. Then additionally, there are the other stuff like I mentioned as well. Understanding, obviously learning, you have to learn again. So you learn and you understand the meanings of the ayat. So as you recite the ayat in your salah, you understand that what is Allah saying in this ayah here, what is the message, what is the context, what is the reason for revelation. All these type of things go through your mind when you are performing salah, if you know the background and everything on the ayat. So there are a number of things that can be done to get out of this autopilot salah, but to put it in a nutshell, what you need to do is to increase your khushu. Wallahu a'lam. Okay, another question here. What is the ruling on car insurance? When it comes to car insurance, then it's the same type of ruling that applies to all insurance. Insurance as a general rule is haram, it is riba. وَأَحَلَّ اللَّهُ الْبَيْعَ وَحَرَّمَ الرِّبَا. Allah mentions that Allah had permitted buying and selling and has forbidden riba. So whether it's car insurance, house insurance, life insurance, whatever other insurance it may be, all of this is, one thing is riba. The second thing is qimar, which is gambling. And because it's possible you may need the insurance or not. So there's always this element of unsurety, whether you pay maybe £200 so far of your insurance, and then you get into an accident and you require 2,000 rands, £2,000 worth of repairs to the car. So then the insurance pays out all 2,000. Or you go your whole life and you spend £200,000 of insurance and you don't get any accidents at all. So there's always this uncertainty whether you're actually going to ever make use of it or not. So there's various factors which has been mentioned with regards to the impermissibility of insurance, and if you want to have a more detailed read on that point, you can just visit askimam.org, Mufti Ibrahim Desai. There's a number of fatwa on this particular topic with references and more logical explanations behind the impermissibility and things like that. So if you want a more detailed answer, inshallah, you can just go there and just search for insurance and you'll be able to get all the various answers. Wallahu a'lam. Okay, another person has asked a question here. Is lying permissible even as a joke? No, definitely not permissible, especially not even as a joke. There's a hadith wherein Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, وَيْلٌ لِمَنْ يُحَدِّثُ فَيَكْذِبُ لِيُضَحِّكَ الْقَوْمُ وَيْلٌ لَهُ وَيْلٌ لَهُ. This is the one riwayah, the one narration of the hadith wherein Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, woe to the person who speaks and lies so that he can make the people laugh. Woe to him, woe to him. So from the hadith we can see this is what you call comedians and clowns and all these people, especially comedians. Basically their whole livelihood is to tell a whole lot of lies amongst the various other vices that they do in order simply to make people laugh. So this question here about lying to make people laugh, it's answered in this very hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to emphatically prohibited. That is why Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam repeated this sentence thrice, woe to him, 3 times, to show how severe it is to lie as you can say as a joke. So definitely no, there is no permissibility to lie for the sake of jokes. Wallahu a'lam. Okay, another question over here. If a person dislikes close interaction with non-Muslims, thinking they are not clean, they eat pork with their hands, so shaking hand is not good. They eat pork, don't let them eat or drink in dishes. Their sweat is dirty, don't let them use your stuff. Does this count as arrogance? Shall I change myself? It's actually a good question that the questioner has asked here. The ulama have actually commented many things on this particular topic. If I'm not mistaken, I think perhaps Maulana Ashraf Ali Thanvi rahimahullah, he also mentioned something similar, that if you shake hands with a non-Muslim, then you should wash your hands thereafter. Other ulama, out of their own self, they would perform wudu thereafter, after simply shaking hands with a non-Muslim. Reason being, when Allah mentions in the Quran, إِنَّمَا الْمُشْرِكُونَ نَجَسٌ, that indeed the idol worshippers of Makkah, that speaking now in context, but it's general, when Allah said that indeed the idol worshippers, those people who worship partners, who attribute partners to Allah, not only, it doesn't mean that you have to worship an idol. So whether you worship Jesus or Hanuman or Guru Granth or anyone else for that matter, you will attribute a partner to Allah. So in this case here, you are basically a mushrik. So, and Allah has said, innamal mushrikuna najasun, that indeed the mushrikeen, they are dirty, impure. So based on this, the ulama had said that if you shake hands with them, you should wash your hands thereafter. So that's just from the perspective of their kufr, their shirk. As you can say, the shirk is dirty, and that requires you to wash your hands thereafter. So it's not arrogance from this perspective. Obviously, if you take it further, that eating pork and things, okay, eating pork you wash and it's gone. But whether you wash or you use soap or not soap or whatever detergents you want to use, as long as you are in a state of kufr and shirk, then there is no detergents which can remove that spiritual dirt from you. So therefore you are in a perpetual state of impurity like that. Therefore, like I say, you find the ulama who do say that you should wash your hands after shaking hands with them. So it's not, therefore it's not something which would be considered to be arrogant that you now have to change yourself for. Wallahu a'lam. And with regards to letting them eat and drink in dishes and things like that, then this you can keep. If you don't want to drink from the same glass like them naturally, like I say, because you feel that he just drank wine now or ate pig now and now he's drinking from your glass, then you can have a different glass and you give to them. But you treat people, whether they Muslim or Kafir, you treat them with dignity. So you don't take a dirty rag and throw some food in it and give it like that, or a broken polystyrene cup and throw something in there and tell him to drink it. You don't do that. That is, you don't even treat animals like that. So if this type of things should not be done, you treat people still with dignity, but that does not mean that you sit and eat out of one plate with them. You eat out of one plate with a Muslim, but not with kuffar. So therefore, like many times people must understand and take things the wrong way when we say that you hate the kuffar. Then they think that because you say you hate the kuffar, that you are now being unjust to them. No, you hating the kufr and you hating them, it does not mean whatsoever that you have to be unjust to them. You still treat them with kindness and utmost justice and everything of the sort. So likewise, in the same manner, because of the spiritual impurities and things like that, you don't have to treat them like you treat a Muslim, invite him, let him sleep in your bed and all things like this here. You don't have to go overboard like that, but you don't treat them like animals either. You treat them still as a human being with dignity, and because that is what is required from you. There's no cases anyway reported of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam or the Sahaba radiyallahu anhu treating people as animals, you know, get a lid of a bin and use that as a plate for them and things like that. This is not the shan of a Muslim. So therefore, it's not arrogance that you don't want to, as you can say, don't want to shake hands with them and things like this. But at the same time, you don't go to the other extreme where you now treat them as animals. Let me put it that way. Wallahu a'lam. Okay, another question here sends in a message and says, Assalamu alaikum. What tips would you give someone who is beginning hifz memorization? What are the best techniques to memorize? Okay, wa alaikum assalam. When it comes to a person who is beginning memorizing the Quran, there are various types of or other methods that people memorize the Quran. It differs from person to person. People have their various ways that they find themselves able to learn. Some people learn more by listening to audio, some people learn more by writing, some people learn more by reading. So therefore you find in various parts of the world, in Africa, in Somalia and other parts of in northern Africa, you find that part of the, as you can say, learning the Quran, they make you write the ayat that you are basically memorizing. They have you write it down. So as you write it down, it takes you long to write it down, the whole ayah now. So you get a chance to be up close and personal with the ayah. So by the time you finish write it, you know the ayah. So it sticks in your mind. Others, like I say, some people, they play with the MP3 player or whatever other player they want to listen to. They have maybe a surah or a page or however you decide to cut up the audio file, and then you just have it repeat over and over and over and over like that, and then you find that before long you know the entire portion. So that's how some people learn. Others learn, as you can say, the more traditional way, where you would sit and you read from the Quran and then you read from memory. So like in this manner, a person would like recite one ayah or at a time, or two ayat, or whether it's 3 lines, whatever the case may be. It's up to your capability. Then you recite this, let's say one ayah, you recite it 1, 2, 3 times looking inside. Then you close the Quran and you recite it out of your head. You see if you can recite it properly one time. Any mistakes, you open up, you look inside. When it's correct, you close it up, you recite out of your memory again until you have it 100%, and you can recite it 2, 3 times like this perfectly from memory. Then you move on to the next ayah until you have maybe half a page or a whole page, however much you are planning to memorize. Then you recite that whole page over once or twice till you see you are free of mistakes. And like this, in this manner, you move on with thereafter for the next day's lesson, and so on and so forth. So, and obviously, like I say, there are various means and methods, and the more you do, the better it is for you. So let's say you start the first juz, Surah Baqarah. So there's freely available of all different Qur'an to get, let's say, Surah Baqarah now. So then you download the audio, you put it on your MP3 player, and you learn the first page of Surah Baqarah. Then you play just the first page of Surah Baqarah, you cut it from the audio file, you make a new audio file with just the one page on, and you have it play over and over and over for you. So in that manner, it helps you from that angle. So there are, like I say, there are various things that you can do, but it depends on what's your nature like, what uh, method works best for you. So like I said, that's up to you. You will have to test which one will work best for you. If you are learning Arabic, like I say, writing the Quran out helps with your Arabic. It helps with your memorization. It helps with understanding. Obviously, you're following up with the translation and things like that. So for each thing, it has its definite benefits. So you can test it out. Play an audio file 4, 5 times over. Start with a small surah and you see how long it takes you to memorize it. And especially if you're reading it from the Quran and you are then listening to it again over and over, you find it stays in your mind. It comes in quite quickly and you are able to preserve it like that, in that manner. So you can test it out and see which one will work best for you. Wallahu a'lam. Okay, another question a person says, okay, so I read on a Muslim reliable food site that alcohol is halal in certain conditions, like if it's used as a carrier for something else. Somebody had just asked the very same question to me just this afternoon for that matter, because someone had posted about Pepsi and Coke, both containing alcohol. So they wanted to know the various opinions. What I mentioned is that you have amongst the ulama today, there are those who say that alcohol in these drinks are permissible because it's not used as an ingredient, like you can say for drinking purposes, but rather it's used as a carrier and it disappears in the, as you can say, in the making of the drink. So this is one view. Other view, or some other ulama, they say that out of taqwa you should avoid it. And a third group say this alcohol that is in it, it is haram, the whole drink is haram, it's not permissible to drink it at all, and this is the view I follow as well. The reason behind these ulama saying this is because within the Hanafi madhab there are differing views. And like I say, the fatwa I follow is of total impermissibility. But within the Hanafi madhab itself, there are those ulama who say that khamr, what we would translate normally as wine, is only what is made from dates and grapes. So if it's made from sugarcane, molasses, and these various other things, then although it will be not permissible to drink it just as a plain ordinary drink, because obviously it will intoxicate you, but it's not technically considered to be khamr. Therefore, if it's used in minute amounts like this as carriers in these drinks, therefore they say it is permissible. But like I say, the safest view, and it is the view that which is of Imam Muhammad rahimahullah, and it's the view I follow as well, that these things is khamr, it's haram, it's not permissible for you to drink it, regardless of whether it's a carrier or whether it's an active ingredient part of the drink or whatever other reason it may be, it will not be permissible. The only time that there is permissibility for alcohol in, as you can say, is for medicines, and that is in cases where there is no other permissible alternative. So you have one cough mixture which contain alcohol and another cough mixture which don't contain alcohol. Both of them are for the same thing, but one contains alcohol and the other one does not. Then in this case, you will have to take the one which does not contain alcohol. If for some other reason, let's say you are diabetic and you cannot take the one which does not contain alcohol because it will put up your sugar and it will have an adverse effect on you because of your medical condition, and only the other one is right for you, and like I say, there's no other alternative treatment, then in cases like this, the Sharia gives permissibility that this amount, this minute amount of alcohol which will be in the medicine, this will be pardoned. So, like I say, it's for a necessity, because medicine is a necessity, and it's not just simply all willy-nilly, just go out there and drink and use alcohol however you want to. But like I say, the view I still follow is that it's of total impermissibility, and the only permissibility will enter on cases of necessity in medicines. Wallahu a'lam. Okay, another person sent in a question over here. He says, today is my mom's birthday. Tomorrow, family is planning to go out for dinner. No one is invited, it's just us. Is this permissible? What if you're not exchanging gifts, having cake or anything unusual, just a regular family night out dinner? In this case, it will be permissible, because like you say, it's just a regular family night out, and there's nothing else basically that's taking place, because after all, today is the birthday, but tomorrow everyone is going out. So okay, it would depend. Yeah, if you go to websites, like I say again, you can go to askimam.org and you will see there the fatwa of Mufti Ibrahim Desai is mentioned that celebrating of birthdays is also not permissible, regardless whether it's Mawlud, Milad, Mawlid that you are celebrating, whether it's anybody else's birthday for that matter. It also for, okay, the birthday that you celebrate of other people is not the same as the Mawlud, because the Milad, the Mawlid that people celebrate, this they make part of the deen. Therefore, the ruling of this and celebrating a normal birthday is slightly different. The celebrating of a normal birthday, this falls under tashabbuh bil kuffar, imitation of the kuffar. So therefore, the ruling of all things imitating the kuffar will apply to this year. When it comes to celebrating the Mawlid, then this people make it now part of the deen, and therefore other rulings apply to it. And this has been replied to a month ago, or other over a 3-week period. There were questions coming in the whole time about the issue of the Milad, So therefore that suffices to not repeat the whole issue over here again. But in any case, like I say, coming to this issue in particular, on this particular point here where it's about family dinner, then it should not be done in as you can say, imitation of the kuffar, that now you only single out this one particular day and things like this. But obviously the food and things which are here, which you eat in this dinner and things, it will all be permissible. It will not become haram as a result of this. Wallahu a'lam. Okay, so far I see no new questions on here. The thread is blank. Nothing new on Skype. And nothing on WhatsApp either. Okay, then it seems like there are very little questions tonight. So then perhaps people aren't listening in tonight because of whatever various reasons. So then on that point, inshallah, we will end, and next time we will continue again. So anybody who have any unanswered questions, or if you only come along later and the show is already ended, then you can post your questions directly on the thread on Ummah forum in the same date, obviously Thursday, 30th of January 2014. You can post your question in that thread, and inshallah it will be carried over onto next week and answered over then. Okay, there's one last question somebody's sending in quickly. Okay, another question has just come in. Is the 99 names of Allah list authentic? Yes, it is authentic. Imam Bayhaqi rahimahullah, he actually has a kitab in it, if I'm not mistaken, I think it's in Al-Asma wa Sifat. In that kitab of his, he lists the 99 names of Allah in the narration, like how we normally know it in this particular order. But one thing that sometimes people must understand, they think that Allah only has 99 names. There is one narration which mentions 99 names, but there are other names which are not contained in this hadith, which are, as you can say, over and above the 99. There are various ulama who have written, like you have Qasida Tuba and various others. Sheikh Ibn Uthaymeen, he has compiled, I think, 18 or something like that, which are not mentioned in this hadith here. So, and various others, some have said there's 120, 140. So, taking all the various names which aren't mentioned in this one particular narration here. So, Allah has more than 99 names, but there is the one narration which is mentioned, like I say, Imam Bayhaqi rahimahullah, he reports it, that mentions this 99 in this particular order that we know it. And yes, the list is authentic, despite the fact that some people nowadays, they try to say that the narration is not authentic and things like that. But the ulama of the past, they did say it's authentic, and that is what really matters. So therefore, it's 100% to follow that list of the 99 names of Allah. Wallahu a'lam. Okay, another question has been sent in, that to what extent should we go to pleasing parents? If a parent isn't pleased with the halal choice of a child, what should we do? This actually was, when did somebody ask this now? I think, was it last week already? Time flies so fast, I can't remember. But somebody asked a similar question. Yes, it was last week. I still remember Mudathir was still asking the question here, that somebody asked the question that, is it, as you can say, a necessity to please your parents, not over and above just obeying them? So it's very similar to this question over here. So yes, the choices that a child makes should be one that pleases the parents. Like I said, it's been mentioned that the pleasure of Allah lies in the pleasure of the father, or as you can say, in the pleasure of the parents. So a child should, as you can say, his whole life he should live within the uh, as you can say, remaining within the pleasure of his parents, and not displeasing them. We find the various narrations. Okay, there's a common narration which people quote, which is very weak, although people try to quote it as though it is authentic and sahih, and some even reject the narration, which is the story of a Sahabi by the name of Alqama, who was, as you can say, his mother was not very happy with him, and he could not recite the Shahada on his deathbed, and then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, through the long story, said to make a fire and throw him to the fire, and then the mother said, no, I forgive him, and then he was able to recite the Shahada. This narration is not authentic, despite the fact, like I say, many people quote it in their talks and things, and the general public tend to think that this is an authentic narration. So no, it's not authentic, but the meaning of the narration itself is still authentic. There are so many other things. We have the story of which comes in the hadith about this person from Bani Israel. What's his name? Not Jurair. I forget his name. It's on the tip of my tongue and I can't get the name out. In any case, he was a pious person in Bani Israel, and he was performing salah. He lived, as you can say, in a monk. He lived on a mountain, and his mother lived separate elsewhere. He went into seclusion on the mountain. So it comes in the narration there that he was performing salah, and his mother called him, and he said, Ya Rabbi Ummi wa Salati, meaning that, oh my Lord, what should I do? Continue with my salah or answer my mother? So he decided, no, he's going to continue his salah. She called him, and then eventually she left, and she said, may he not die until he looks into the face of an immoral woman. And then the hadith continues, long story, as some woman came along and claimed that he had a child with her and everything like that, and the people broke down his heart and were pulling him around and everything like that. And Allah caused then a miracle to take place, and the child of this woman spoke up and said that no, he is not the father is this other farmer over there. So in that way Allah cleared his name. But the thing is, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had commented on the end of this hadith words to the effect that if this man, he was an abid, he was the worshipper of Allah, he was not an alim, as you can say, he wasn't a scholar, so therefore he made this choice to continue his salah instead of responding to his mother. If he had knowledge, he would have responded to his mother and broken his salah. So from this and various other things, how many stories are there in the hadith, and there are chapters dedicated to this in the hadith itself. The 3 people in the cave, and the rock blocked the cave up, and these 3 people, they made tawassul, they made tawassul using their deeds as an intermediary to ask Allah for help. So the various things, good deeds they had done, and they asked, oh Allah, if I did this only for your pleasure, then move the rock. It moved a little and a little until finally, after the 3rd one made, the entire rock was moved sufficient for them to leave the cave. But one of the people in this hadith, and this is also an authentic hadith, he mentioned that his wife and his children were, as you can say, he lived with his parents and his wife and children, as you can say, in, let's say, adjoining one house maybe with 2 rooms, in that manner. But basically it was on one plot. So he would go out and get the milk and bring the milk and give always first for his parents before giving his wife and his children, or even drinking himself. As you can say, this was their supper. So what happened, the one time he came late and his parents had gone to sleep, and his wife and children were still awake, so the children were crying and things like that. So he told his wife, try and put them to sleep in some manner, and eventually the children were put to sleep like that, and he stood with the milk like this until when his parents woke up so that he could give it to them. And with this deed he had done only for the sake of Allah, and through the intercession of this deed, Allah helped them by moving the rock a little, which shows what an accepted deed it was. So there are various numerous ahadith on this topic of obedience to parents and pleasing of parents and things like this. It's mentioned that the dua of a parent for a child and things like this. So there's a lot that's on this topic itself. So a child, as far as possible, his whole life, you should love like you love in the pleasure of Allah. You should love within the pleasure of your parents, and the only time you are allowed to disobey them is if it is to do something which is disobedience to Allah, because in that case لا طاعة لمخلوق في معصية الخالق, that there is no obedience to the creation which results in disobedience to the creator. So if it's a halal choice, as you can say, of the child, and there is another choice which the parent wants, then the child should do that. We find in the hadith Hazrat Umar radiallahu anhu, he came and he told his son Hazrat Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu anhuma to divorce his wife, and Hazrat Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu anhuma, he didn't want to, he liked this particular woman and he didn't want to divorce her. They took it to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam told him, divorce her. Why? Because his father Hazrat Umar radiallahu anhu had said to do that. We find in the narration when Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam, he was living elsewhere, and Hazrat Ismail alayhi salam was an adult and he was married, and he lived now with one of his wives in this one particular place. And this wife had never met Ibrahim alayhi salam. One day Ibrahim alayhi salam, he came to visit, and now Ismail alayhi salam was not at home, so he met the wife now and everything, and she would basically complained about Ismail alayhi salam, and or rather made certain comments and things like that. So as he was leaving, he said, inform your husband. He didn't say it was his son. He just said, inform him that غير عتبة بابك, which is normally translated as change your doorstep. Ismail alayhi salam, he understood from this what his father Ibrahim alayhi salam was asking of him. He was saying basically, divorce this woman. She's not a good woman, divorce her. So when she relayed this message to him, then he divorced her. Then later on he married another wife, and again at another stage Ibrahim alayhi salam, he came to visit, and this time met the new wife. Again, both wives had not met Ibrahim alayhi salam before, so this was the first time they were meeting him. So basically this woman was of a much her nature pious and everything, and then Ibrahim alayhi salam, as he left, he gave a good comment for her, that like keep on to this doorstep. So therefore Ismail alayhi salam, again he understood and he kept this woman. So there are, like I said, there's numerous things which can be said on this topic, on the importance of obeying the parents and being always pleasing them, as long as it is not in the disobedience of Allah. Wallahu a'lam. Okay, that was now the final question from Skype, and I see the thread is also empty, no additional questions on there, and WhatsApp is also clear. So on that point, like I say now, if anyone comes beyond this point with any other questions, you can post it directly on the thread name being live Q&A with Abu Mus'ab - Thursday 30th January 2014 on Ummah Radio, which you can find in the Ummah Radio section of the forum. So you can take your questions and post it directly in there, and it will be dealt with in next week Thursday inshallah. So on that point then we will end, and we say وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد سبحان الله وبحمده سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك.